Benny, Benny, Benny. Benny, 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 Benny. 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 Benny, 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 Benny. Benny, 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 Benny. Benny, 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 B-E-N-N-Y, B-E-N-N-Y.
Doctor Who, too hot for TV.
Welcome back to Doctor Who Too Hot for TV. We are the podcast that looks at all things Doctor Who Extended Universe. And as promised a few episodes ago, I'm back with Jack. Hi, Jack.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. It feels like only 20 minutes since I last spoke to you.
Well, that's because, just such as the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey nature of it, we've just recorded our last episode. But people don't need to know that.
No.
So let's not tell them. So what are you here to discuss today, Jack?
Bernice Summerfield Series 5?
Yes, Series 5. Have you heard it before?
Yes, I have. I've heard this before.
Well, you would have had to hear it at least once to do this podcast.
I've heard all of these twice, I think.
Yes. At the time, or sort of around the time of their first release?
Later. I think I got into Benny audios. I think it would have been around the time of in 2 series time. So I think it would have been when the new series was going out.
Right.
It might have been. I might have been during series 2 of the David Tennant era, because I wasn't a big fan of that at the time. No, so I think I got more into Big Finish then, or maybe around series 5.
Yeah.
One of those.
I have a similar thing with Big Finish around the 50th anniversary, because I wasn't really a fan of series 7 or 8, and so I've got a real fond memory of nearly all the Big Finish releases at that point, and most of them I revisited a couple of times. And that's the good thing about Doctor Who. If there's a bit of it you don't like on telly, there's always something else going on somewhere else. So, it's 4 stories released over about 6 months, and we'll cover them each individually. And the first one is Professor Bernice Summerfield and the Grel Escape, released on the 7th of July 2004, written by Jacqueline Rayner. News at the time: Billie Piper, pop star Billie Piper, was cast as Rose Tyler, and of course, not for the first time, Doctor Who was dead and going to fail. Keith Boak was announced as directing Block 1 of the new series. A new convention entitled Return to Wookey Hole was planned, which... You dirty boy. Which features everyone's favourite Revenge of the Cybermen stars, Colin Baker, Wendy Padbury, and Terry Molloy. I don't know whether that ever happened, but
yeah.
I know, like, nowadays they do Doctor Who conventions in locations and don't have any of the stars of the story, but that's because everybody was dead. Everybody from Revenge of the Cybermen was still about that back then. It's just lazy, if you ask me.
I name-dropped Wookey Hole in front of some American ones, and they were all like, what the fuck did you just say? What?
And Anthony Ainley had just died, your best mate.
Yep.
And as previously reported, DWM also announced that BBC South had produced a series of 3 mini Doctor Who features focusing on the show's location filming in the south of England, directed by Bill Baggs and hosted by Sylvester McCoy. Now, I've never seen those. Now, the sort of backstory to that is, originally he tried to make a brand new Doctor Who with his friend Alan Cumming as the Doctor on BBC South, which he worked for, before the new series aired, to try and pip them to the post. And Jane Tranter or Lorraine Heggessy got wind of this and just went, no, BBC South, you're not going to do that. So then it turned into these little location documentaries with Sylvester McCoy, which I've never seen, but I'm surprised. They must pop up on a Blu-ray at some point.
Do you think the script for the abandoned Doctor Who pilot one-off thing is in existence? Do you think you can get it? Do you think you can track it down? I
don't know. The comic strip running at the time was Sins of the Fathers, featuring the 8th Doctor and Destry. Bernice Summerfield, A Life Worth Living, was out from Big Finish. Dalek Empire 3, The Survivors, was out. Roof of the World, featuring the 5th Doctor, Perry and Eremen. And The Leisure Hive was released on DVD, while the book was the 6th Doctor and Perry book, Synthespians, trademark. Have you ever read Synthespians?
No, but I know All I remember was that they got in trouble because they used a picture from Dallas.
Oh, did they?
They changed the faces to look like Autons, and they didn't have the clearance to use a picture from Dallas, so they had to change it.
Oh well, there we go.
We should do a podcast called like Under the Covers, where we just talk about covers, because it's, you know.
Indeed, we're coming soon from the Doctor Who Too Hot for TV network.
I've got it covered.
Nice, very good. We could get was it Black Sheep?
Who's the black sheep? What's the black sheep? Know who I am when I'm coming, so you sleep.
Yes.
We could get Black Sheep on for a chat.
Yeah, all the interns that were given the job of doing the covers.
There's somebody out there who's like the industry's most leading graphic designer who started out doing weird Doctor Who books, isn't there?
Yeah. Toby Haydock should track him down.
Too hot for TV.
Using Benny's time ring, Jason tracks down 20th century Earth television signals to show Peter kid shows. When Benny and Sophia arrive, Jason has Joseph change the channel. He tunes in to a time machine on Grel in the year 2648, and they watch as the Grel head to the Braxiatel collection to capture and study Peter. Before they can warn Braxiatel, Peter activates the time rings. Benny, Jason, Joseph, Peter and Sophia are hurled through time, visiting the Festival of Piranha, ancient Egypt, a jungle, the Eiffel Tower, a football game and many other places pursued by the Grel. Peter has become hot to the touch, just like the time rings, and rapidly ages. Benny takes the time rings from him and he tries to get them back by force, killing the Grel Tim, who is Sophia's son from the future. Sophia then uses the Great Grel gun to destroy the rings and restore Peter. Shocked by the violence that Peter displayed, Benny and Jason vow to ensure that he does not grow up to become such a person, with Jason admitting that he wants to care for Peter as his own father never did for him. Many of the Grel time machine circuits have been burnt out by the short jumps, but Sophia is able to use it to take the group back to 2603. Benny apologises to Sophia for Tim's death, and Sophia admits that the whole ordeal was likely her fault due to her having submitted information on Peter to Grelor. All the synopses on this episode were adapted from the TARDIS Wiki articles.
Too hot for TV.
As we said, the Grel escape, which is a bit of a pun. I don't know whether you noticed.
Yes,
so this is Benny and co have just been under Dalek occupation and Axis occupation. How does this pick this up, or does it not?
It's Bernice and Jason back together on romantic terms, or getting used to their new situation again. It's not, it's well handled in that they still don't know what they're kind of doing with each other.
Yeah.
But overall, it's quite a light and frothy season opener. Yeah. Does it reference the Dalek occupation?
I think it mentions it in passing, but it's quite odd how, and I get it, Doctor Who does this quite a lot in the new series of like tragic events of season finale. Next season, it's like New Earth.
Yeah.
It's body swaps and Cassandra, and then the moment before it's like I just nearly died and Daleks. But so I guess it's kind of a fresh start. I'm trying to get an idea, experiencing a lot of these for the first time, what a typical Bernice play is, and is this it?
I think from here on, this becomes a bit more typical of what they can do. Obviously, the first solo Bernice story was by Paul Cornell, which was Oh No It Isn't, which launched the New Adventures range.
Yeah. And
the first ever Big Finish release. And that's Bernice getting lost in pantomime world and dealing with characters from pantomime. So it didn't sell itself as a hardcore science fiction series to begin. I think the issue that the audio range has had is that it's ended up like dealing with the dog ends of the Big Finish range. As in, obviously, it wants to build on the characters and the world building from the Big Finish range, but sometimes it just feels like they're still trying to do a Doctor Who story and they just put Bernice in afterwards, and it doesn't. I don't think it works. Whereas this takes a different approach, which is we're going to build on the slightly sitcom family nature of Benny and Jason. And we're also going to take the piss out of Doctor Who because it's a parody of The Chase.
It is indeed. And so how does that work a little bit within the plot?
Bernice and Jason, when they first got married, their rings were time rings.
Of course.
So the first series of Bernice Summerfield at Big Finish had a trilogy where they get lost using their time rings and go on an adventure, her and Jason together. I think Peter picks up one of the time rings and accidentally activates it, and they go zipping through different locations whilst they're also being chased by the Grel, who are a fact hunting species.
Indeed.
Who are quite a comical race, and so generally they get into japes and scrapes that parody the first Doctor story, The Chase.
Indeed. Is it an on-the-nose parody, or is it a bit more subtle?
It's pretty on the nose.
It is, indeed, it is. It's interesting, there was an Iris Wildtime box set where each one parodies a different era of Doctor Who, and I covered one of them on here that parodied the TV movie. And even though I'm not a big Iris Wildtime fan, I would like to go back and hear those other parodies. And I think Doctor Who, the TV show, never really does that because you don't want to send yourself up in that way. So I think it's quite fun that something with a limited audience like this can really have fun with the format and poke fun at the Doctor Who. The ultimate one sort of being the one Doctor.
Yeah.
But it's nice when these sort of peripheral ranges also do it.
I mean, I love the tone of it because, again, similar to the Greatest Shop in the Galaxy and the Green-Eyed Monster that we covered in season 3.
Yeah.
It's got a kind of Futurama / Rick and Morty vibe to it, where it's just very, very funny and very breezy and easy to listen to.
Yeah.
And it's just not, but also it gets the characters right. There's things like Bernice and Jason are stuck on like a ghost train at a haunted fairground, which is meant to be similar to the haunted house in The Chase. Of
course, yeah.
And there's flesh-eating ghosts after them, but Bernice stops to celebrate Peter learning a new word.
Yeah.
Which is good. And also, the most significant thing that this does, which is unbelievable, is that it has a character that's a toddler, and they always account for the fact that someone's got to hold him.
Yeah.
Like it's a toddler with weight, and they actually deal with on audio, like them passing backwards and forwards the child, which I think is really, really helps sell the story.
There's something in this that I think is brilliant, in that whenever there's a child in Doctor Who, it's always a child in danger or an important child, but this just deals with the frustrations of parenting, of having to take care of this being and teach it to be a being, and like just the stress of. I remember someone I was working with had her first child, and she literally messaged like the group and went, we had our first outing as a family today to Costa down the road. It took us an hour to get ready to leave the house, and it's full of little, obviously for dramatic purposes they're not going to stop for an hour to get ready to leave the house in this, but just the shock to the system it is of having a child is played up here, which I think is a brilliant move.
Yeah. And so obviously it takes the piss out of The Chase. So there's a point where one of the Grel rises up out of the sand, coughing and spluttering, going, bad fact. There's a bad robot duplicate of Benny that's obviously awful, and she goes, "You can't possibly think that's me. I threw those earrings out years ago." Which the Grel go back in time and infiltrate the picnic at Hanging Rock instead of the Marie Celeste. And then at one point there's a twist where there's two Grel. I think the female Grel turns out to be the future mother of the other Grel, and she goes, "This is my son, Tim." And it just works. It's very silly and very funny, but it does it very well. The climax is that the time rings end up having an effect on baby Peter, growing into this an adult kind of monster that starts lashing out, and there's this weird kind of tussle between Jason, Benny, and then this kind of adult monster, Peter, where Jason goes, don't hit your mother, you freak," and punches his own son in the face. But it kind of ties into to the fears that Benny has about, she's had a baby with an alien, and that can get messy.
Yes.
So they don't know how he's going to end up.
Exactly.
But yeah, I just think it's great. It's just really easy listening. I wouldn't want every Bernice story to be like this, but this is definitely how you do a lighter Benny story.
Of course. I listened to it sat on a hammock in Mexico at about 10 o'clock at night having a beer, and it was just an enjoyable hour of Doctor Who silliness, or Doctor Who related silliness. It's written by Jacqueline Rayner. Now, does she write a lot for this range? Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she does. Probably at least once a series. She might have done some editing on the short story anthologies for Benny as well. Yeah,
she doesn't always write stories like this. It's a mixed bag, right? In terms of not mixed bag as in bad, but she's not just the funny writer for the range.
No. Yeah, she does quite a range, but she is, when she wants to be funny.
Yeah,
she really goes for it. I know later on she does The Kingdom of the Blind, which is quite a big science fiction
monoid story
with monoids.
The monoids are always in the big science fiction stories, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is there a particular standout performance from our regulars or the cast?
I just really, really like Lisa Bowerman and Stephen Fool. Yeah, I just think they're a great pairing.
I absolutely agree, and I often miss those characters when she isn't surrounded by her extended family and extended family. I often miss them when they're not there. Is there anything else you want to say on the Grel escape before we move on to the next one?
No.
Excellent. So is it a clanger, a banger, or an average meander?
It's a banger.
It is a banger. Hooray.
Too hot for TV.
Professor Bernice Summerfield and the Bone of Contention was released on the 10th of September 2004. It was written by Simon Forward, directed by Edward Salt, and produced by Gary Russell. News at the time: the show's new producer was announced in the form of Phil Collinson. The Doctor Who documentary The Story of Doctor Who was watched by 4.4 million people. Daleks Master Plan 2 was found, and composer Malcolm Clarke had just died. The comic strip at the time was the 8th Doctor and Destry story Bad Blood. The DVD was Ghostlight. From Big Finish we had The Faith Stealer featuring the 8th Doctor Charlie and Keres. We had Dalek Empire 3 The Warriors. And from BBC Books we had The Algebra of Ice featuring the 7th Doctor Ace and the Brigadier.
Too hot for TV.
Benny is to exchange some weapons with the Galliari for the wishing bone of Pariah. Commander Korshal claims there is no record of the initial transaction, and she goes to investigate. Benny and Mordekan visit Teshra and are attacked by her young patient Grieco until Benny sues him and a trooper takes him to his father. Teshra explains that the Galliari are descended from avians and that she hopes to use the wishing bone belonging to an extinct avian species to find an ancestral link, but she was unable to and gave it away to a merchant. Grieco, who has escaped his escort, seems to have bonded with Benny. They go to a former space liner, which is now home to Mordekan's fellow space gypsies, and Grieco shows Benny visions of his life, being forced by Korshal to fight. Benny tells Mordekan about the wishing bone and how an ancient species supposedly moulded the storms of their world into shadow swans, living beings which fed on biospheric energies and released them to terraform other planets. Grieco sheds his skin, and when Korshal and his troopers arrive, Benny escapes with him. Korshal volunteers to go and kill Grieco, believing him to no longer be his son, and Mordekan warns Benny to flee. Despite knowing that Grieco is one of the Shadow Swans and will destroy the Clutch if he reaches maturity, Benny does not feel able to leave him to his death until he starts attacking her to drive her off. Teshra tells her that she was trying to build a warrior to defeat the Sandman, which Benny, as a mother, who would do almost anything to save her child, can understand to an extent.
Too hot for TV.
So I guess at this point, with Doctor Who nearly being back, is there much call for this sort of spin-off? Are people still interested and listening?
I have no idea what the audio ship the series was. Like, I've got no idea, but I think this as a story is obviously, it's a companion piece to The Sandman.
Yeah.
So it's playing in the toy box of, you know, the setting and the characters that were set up in that.
Yeah.
I think there's no need for this by this point. As in, I think the range has either got to rest on its characters and just go for it and not be a tie-in. I don't have any notes for this story because it was my least favourite of this series. But generally, you know, the Great British Bake Off has an extra slice, and you know how the Traitors has Traitors Unmasked.
Yes.
And there was a time when every BBC show just had a companion piece on BBC Three. This is one of those stories that for me feels a bit like Big Finish and Extra Slice.
Right.
It's a bit like, oh, if you had any interest in this release that was out a few months ago, why not get this?
There's a point where Big Finish try and do a fair amount of world building, don't they, and create their own alien races. So there's the Galliari who appear in a couple of things. There is, because they're also in Dreamtime, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's also the Virons or something.
Virons, yeah.
And there's those shark-headed creatures as well that show up a few times.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that these aren't successful, like, worlds that they inhabit, but they just don't catch on as, like, they always feel a little bit too generic.
Yeah.
You know?
A bit like the Harmony Shoal. The recurring villains that no one even remembers were recurring in The Husbands of River Song and with the return of Dr. Mysterio. Yeah,
like no one remembers them, and also Stephen Moffat missed a trick by not making them the brains of Akamorph or the one Anamorph, whatever it is, the ones in Keys of...
the Morpherton brains.
Yeah, that's it, from Keys of Marinus. I would love both those stories if they were sequels to the Keys of Marinus, but that's just me. Benny's suddenly not around her entourage and close fam. How do you feel about them not appearing here?
It doesn't do the story any favours because it's just not building on the strengths of the series, and it still feels like an attempt to do Doctor Who light in a way.
It's also dealing with parenthood in a way again, which is a reoccurring theme. But do you think that doesn't really work when you're not dealing with, like, it would be a good companion piece in that respect if Peter was more involved in the story and things like that. So she's dealing with this sort of, what would you describe it as? It's a sort of genetically engineered Galliari.
Yeah, so it's like it's a child Galliari. It's been engineered to be some kind of a weapon, and she has some kind of a psychic link with it, and that, like, feels its pain.
Yeah,
and so it ties into her worries about what Peter's going to grow into.
Yeah,
but Peter feels absence by his mention.
Yeah,
but which is odd because obviously you don't need an actor to play Peter at this point. No. You can just use sound effects. So it definitely feels like a story. Because also, I don't know what the time and resources they had to make this. Because clearly it's not making anywhere near the numbers. People aren't buying it in the same way they buy a Big Finish.
No.
So I don't know what resources they have to put into this. But this definitely feels like it could have almost been a rejected Doctor Who story.
Yeah.
But they've tried to make it work, but it still feels a bit too generic.
Yeah. And the fact that Peter isn't there I think is an issue. But also, there's a version of this that isn't the Galliari, and it is her having some sort of psychic connection with Peter, who is obviously this, you know, he's a mix of two species that have never mixed before and had a child. So there's the core concept, I think, is slightly flawed in that respect. It doesn't go enough into the details of parenthood and dealing with children who are different in whatever way, shape or form. Like, there's a really interesting story to be told either via comparison or involving Peter. But I think it's a bit too generic sci-fi for me.
Yeah. But I had this issue with the Sandman in that I liked the idea in the original play of the Sandman.
Yeah.
But I never enjoyed the story, and I think it was just something in the telling of it. And again, because these are much shorter stories, you've really got to nail your opening, and that people just travelling to get somewhere and turning up and meeting people is so much less effective when you've only got 50 to 60 minutes to tell a story. And a lot of the worst Benny stories take that for granted.
Absolutely.
They, as in, even though it's an hour long, it takes about 15 minutes for anything to get going.
Yeah.
And you can't really afford that by this point.
Absolutely. I too thought it was the weakest of this run, and my notes are also minimal because it's fine. It's it's a bit of sci-fi, but after the epic nature of Death and the Daleks and the fun nature of the previous one, which also had an interesting heart to it, this just feels a bit like sci-fi treading water. And it's that thing that I think you said about Razkor Avkolos, in that it's nearest Doctor Who gets to being a bit of a dull Star Trek thing, and this does feel very Star Trek The Next Generation to me.
Yeah.
And that's fine if I'm sitting down to listen to a Star Trek The Next Generation audio, but I'm not. I'm here for the wacky world of Bernice Summerfield.
Yeah.
Shall we move on from this one?
Yes.
Would you say it was a clanger, a banger, or an average meander?
It's somewhere between a clanger and a meander.
Yeah, it's a competent enough script that gets from A to B, but it doesn't do it in the most interesting of ways, so I think I'm going average meander.
Yeah.
Too hot for TV.
The third release in Bernice Summerfield Series 5 was Professor Bernice Summerfield and the Relics of Jegg-Sau. It was released November 2004, and it was written by Stephen Cole. News at the time, Joe Ahern was confirmed to be the director of the third block of Doctor Who. Simon Callow was announced as playing Charles Dickens, and a play about the life of Delia Derbyshire was happening in Glasgow. Releases at the time were the Cybermen tin, featuring the 10th Planet and Invasion soundtracks, and David Banks's audio documentary Origins of the Cybermen, in which he talks about the Cybermen like they're a real race. From Big Finish there was Care Droyer, featuring the 8th Doctor Charlie and Keres. The Discontinuity Guide 2nd edition was published, and Lost in Time, the DVD box set featuring the Hartnell and Troughton Orphan episodes, was released, which was one of the most exciting things in the world. And the book at the time was the 2nd Doctor Jamie and Zoe adventure, The Indestructible Man. Do you remember that?
No.
No?
No.
No.
All I remember was Care Droyer.
Right. I can't remember what happens in Care Droyer.
Neither can I. That was the wrapping up of the 8th Doctor, and I think that was just before the next life.
You know, we did the finales of the we did Neverland and we did Zagreus.
Yeah.
I'd love to do the Next Life, and what was the other one? The one, it's got a cave on the front and it features Daphne Ashbrook and Jegg-Sau.
You mean the Twilight Kingdom?
Yeah.
That's not got Jegg-Sau in it.
Has it got Daphne Ashbrook in it?
No, Daphne Ashbrook's in the Next Life.
This is riveting stuff, isn't it?
Villa, Michael Keating is in the Twilight Kingdom. That's it.
Oh, right,
And
okay.
it's shit.
Great review from Jack. I don't think you're coming back to cover that one, unfortunately.
Too hot for TV.
Benny is sent by Braxiatel to see if the relics stolen by Richard Elliot Whitman were left behind on Jegg-Sau, when she is fired on by Elise, who is on the planet with her father, Ethan Calwell, who is a mineralogist that was cataloguing Jegg-Sau with his brother a year ago when their ship crashed and his brother died. Since then, he and Elise have been living with the K-103, a robot constructed in 2058, which helps Benny send out a distress beacon from her damaged shuttle and destroys it whilst protecting Benny from an aggressive animal. Elise gives Benny a tour, but there are many locked doors and secrets that Benny is prevented from seeing. When Benny returns to her ship, the robot is there and takes her to be corrected, but she is saved and taken to safety by a decrepit-looking Calwell before the shuttle explodes. Calwell reveals that he and Elise are descended from Professor Kettlewell, creator of the K-1, and came to Jegg-Sau to restore Kettlewell's reputation upon learning that the K-103 had been in Whitman's collection. They found that the robot had built duplicates of itself to serve the colonists and became hostile when Calwell asked them to rebuild the crashed shuttle and surrender their treasures. The robots then killed Elise and imprisoned Calwell before replacing them with duplicates who would never leave them. The robots capture Benny and assimilate data from her to create a duplicate, but she convinces them to give her a trial period of living in the dome. She persuades the duplicates to hold a samurai sword in the collection of treasures and proceeds to use it to destroy the Calwell duplicate. But Elise's face bleeds when cut by glass, revealing that she was improved by the robots and is not a duplicate. Red Cross jets arrive to rescue Benny and fight the robot that was in her shuttle, which has grown to a massive size because of the explosion. The robot takes control of Calwell, who is actually another robot, to assist in the fight against the jets. Benny goes to salvage the treasures before they can be destroyed by the fighting, but she finds that most of them have been corroded or ruined by damp, leaving the robots as the only surviving relics. She tries to stop the Red Cross from destroying the robots, but is unable to.
Too hot for TV.
This is exactly what I want from expanded media, in that it takes a silly bit of Doctor Who ephemera and turns it into a gripping story. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell everybody the exciting premise?
It's a story loosely inspired by the cover art to the Jegg-Sau of the Enemies of Doctor Who, which is a painted scene of the K1 robots, multiple, traipsing through an alien planet, firing guns and having big battles.
Which is the promise of a Doctor Who you never get as a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm also a fucking idiot because I just realised that the title is Jigsaw. Jegg-Sau.
Oh, fuck.
We're fucking morons.
Shit, wow. We just got punked by Stephen Cole.
20 years ago.
Shit.
Yeah.
Jigsaw. Fuck it out.
This has no right to be as good as it is, I think.
No.
It's a stupid idea, but it plays, as I was saying, it plays on that promise as a kid of Doctor Who always looks better, certainly as a classic era fan, on the Target book cover or in the comics or whenever, either video cover, like the video cover of City of Death promises like time corridors and alien landscapes, and actually you get like prehistoric in a studio and that's about it, and no time corridors.
Well, I've only just learned that the best version of Doctor Who is actually the Weetabix version. That's insane.
It is. It absolutely is. I was very excited to hear more of the K1 robot. Was there any call for the K1 robot to have a reappearance?
No, but even just seeing it on the cover with Adrian Salmon's artwork, it's just so cool to see the giant robot being giant. Yeah. Because on TV, when it has to be giant, it's shit. It's utterly awful. But it is a cool design because it does, it looks cool when it's drawn. Yeah. It's very retro, and when they blow it up to look fucking huge, it's exciting.
It's a fun concept to play with, and as you say, they play on the fact that it looks retro and a bit naff, but also it only looks retro. I mean, it always looks retro, but it only looks naff on TV because of the limit, it's droopy hands and stuff like that. But in theory, if you did it now, it'd be with the same design. It'd be this big, sturdy bit of metal, but it just looks a bit tinfoily in places. I
think my wrists are thin, but my God, it's literally just a tiny bit of wire.
Yeah, it's not the greatest design, but it's one of those iconic Doctor Who designs that exists in the memories and minds of a certain generation of fan. And if you're a kid of the 70s, then I imagine that the giant robot was the most exciting thing you could experience. And if you're a child of the 70s, 80s, or 90s, Doctor Who and the Junior Giant Robot, which was the first Doctor Who book I think I read, is a great gateway into the series. So it's like, and because it's the start of a new era and a new Doctor, and it's seen as the beginning of the Tom Baker era, it's sort of, if you do a clip show about Doctor Who, that giant robot comes up again and again in a way that you're not likely to see the Borad. Yeah. So it's one of those iconic one-off villains that people go, the one with the giant robot. So even though the story was finished, it's not, and they find a way around it. So how do they handle the return?
Considering the last release, I was complaining that it was kind of probably not even enough story to fill an hour. Yeah. This, I even there was so much going on, I struggled to follow it at some points. But overall, Benny crash lands on a planet and meets two people whose surname is Calwell, which raises alarm bells, and she's looking for a collection of historical relics, in one of which includes the K1 robot. So it's already treated as a historical relic, which is why it's so retro and outdated, which I think serves it.
Absolutely.
But the opening is great as well, because it opens immediately with Benny waking up after a spacecraft, and then a few moments later we discover that she's in some kind of a trial recounting the events, and it just gets to the point a lot quicker that you've got to do if you've only got 50 minutes to an hour to tell the story.
This could have quite easily been done over 2 hours, and you wouldn't have, if the last story wasn't made and the middle two were this, you could quite easily see that and not get bored, because there's a lot of ideas thrown in there. It feels a little bit like a Blake 7 to me.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's quite adult in places. It's definitely not a Doctor Who story, even though it's based on a Doctor Who Jigsaw. I mean, initially, a lot of it begins in a very claustrophobic way, because it's Benny trapped on a planet with two very odd, unhinged characters that behave like. The girl behaves like a child, and is very unhinged. She has this odd way of speaking where she says to Benny, "Please don't break friends with me," which is really disturbing. And I've lost track of this, but there's a point where Benny believes that they are robots, and she ends up trying to kill the man. She does kill the man, but there's blood. So I think, are they robots that bleed?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They're to be made as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
And because the whole conceit is it's quite a standard sci-fi trope of, AI gone mad and misinterpreting its orders to keep people safe, and by the way it does that is by killing them, making a replica of them that will last forever, that they can keep safe forever.
But there's something in it as well, in that I had to look this up because there's a lot of plot in here. There was someone called Richard Whitman stole a bunch of alien artifacts and ancient relics. Braxiatel wants these, so Bernice is sent to get them. He comes to this planet, and the K1 robot is amongst the artifacts. And I think there are some colonists on the planet, and the Richard Whitman who stole the artifacts had a VR porn simulation on his spaceship. And this kind of porn character that was part of the holodeck or whatever it was is used as the woman's personality. So she's designed to be very, very kind of ditzy and loyal, which is really, really odd and kind of disturbing,
and not the sort of thing you'd find in a main range Doctor Who story, I imagine. No,
but I think there's definitely but it kind of builds on the slightly the naive loyalty that the K1 robot had, because again the K1 robot was slightly like a child to some degree, and there is something about, in this story and in Robot, this theme of taking for granted the people who are most loyal to you. So Sarah's relationship with the K1, there's something similar here, where there's something disturbingly naive about the robot characters. It reaches a similar point where obviously the robot is tragically killed in the original Tom Baker story. In this, Benny, I think the military are called in to defeat the giant robot, or robots. There might be multiple.
There's multiple here.
Yeah, so that's to reenact the Jigsaw.
Yes.
And so the final battle's taking place, and then Benny discovers that all of the other relics have been destroyed or eroded over time. So the only relic is the robots, and they are getting destroyed. And so she's trying to call off the battle, but can't do it in time. So it loops round nicely, and it's far better than it has any need to be, because it's someone who's properly sat down and watched Robot and thought, how can I do a really interesting, slightly more adult version of the story?
And it's got there's a great tension to it. The mystery and tension just keeps going and propelling you towards the end of the script, and you're like, I don't actually know where this is going.
Yeah.
Even though, as you say, it is sort of a retelling of Robot.
Yeah.
It's just Stephen Cole has written a lot of Doctor Who, and was he running the book range?
Yeah, I think so.
He was running the book range and actually the video range and stuff like that. And sometimes it felt with his books that he was just having to, with one's fallen through and sort of do a Terrence Dicks job of write something and get it out. But this really feels like he's been given a chance to just do what he wants to do. And it's a silly take on an old Jigsaw, but actually he's turned it into like a really interesting and epic version of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Do we like hearing Michael Kilgareth back as the Robot?
Well, sure. I mean, I didn't know I needed it, but yeah, great.
It's like when they peddle out the old lady who played Alpha Centauri in Empress of Mars, and even though they sound noticeably older, which you can get away with because Alpha Centauri's age and this robot is very fucking old by this point.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing screams a little bit of, well, I didn't know I needed this, but it turns out I do. And how do we find Benny in this? Because it's a very different situation from the other two plays. Like,
yeah. So again, it's she's divorced from the characters of the Brachytale collection and her son and Jason. But if the story's good, it works. Yeah. But again, this isn't quite a Doctor Who story, so it really rests on the writing. Yeah. So that it's if anything, an average story in Benny suffers more because, again, you're just wondering why aren't we doing more with the other characters? Yeah. Why are we doing this? So the stories have to almost be better than, say, an average Doctor Who story. Yeah. There's
one of my favourite moments is Elise Corwell. Benny tries to escape from her and throws glass at her, and she starts to bleed. Yeah. And everybody talks about how horrific it is, and she just keeps going, "I hate you, Benny. Yeah. I hate you, Benny." And it's so unsettling. Yeah. And there's a real. It's not just playing with AI; it's playing with the uncanny valley thing a lot. Yeah. And like, there's something off about these people, and they can't quite get it right. I just keep going back to that mystery and that atmosphere and that tension of like, this is a real visceral world that you can really submerge yourself in for an hour and 10 minutes or whatever it is. Do you have anything else you want to say on that?
Nope.
Would you say it's a successful sequel?
Well, I mean, I was never a fan of robots, so this is
more successful.
But also they're incomparable, really, because they're totally different audiences.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, I think it's definitely a banger.
It is indeed a banger.
Too hot for TV.
Professor Bernice Summerfield in The Masquerade of Death was written by Stewart Sheargold and was released in March 2005. Now, quite an important time for Doctor Who fans, that. It was the DWM with the cover of The Mocks of Balhoun. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Exciting times. And Doctor Who was back on our screens on March 26th. Joe Ahern had been brought back to do more episodes for later in the series. It was announced the show would have a new theme done by Murray Gold, and Lorraine Heggessy was leaving the BBC. Merchandise out included the Daleks, the talking book of the Target book. From Big Finish, we had the Juggernauts featuring the Sixth Doctor and Mel, and the Mechanoids. Book-wise, we had About Time 3, Dream Time from Big Finish featuring the Seventh Doctor, Ace and Hex. One of their early unit releases, The Longest Night. The Doctor Who Mastermind special was first broadcast. On BBC Radio 2, we had Project Who, which was a history of Doctor Who for newbies and old fans alike. And we also had the Doctor Who years released on the BBC website. Speaking of websites, also released was the Who is Doctor Who website done by Clive.
Yeah, I remember that.
A New Dimension was first broadcast on BBC One, and then Rose was first broadcast on BBC One.
Didn't Mickey have like a blog or something?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
I remember that.
Yeah, but wasn't that the second series? I think that was tying in with School Reunion.
Okay.
So there was a lot going on back then. The unit series. Now, obviously, there's a Kate Lethbridge-Stewart-led unit series now. But I can't remember a thing that happened in that. There's like 4 of them, I think.
Yeah. And there's got to be a Doctor Who villain in there.
There must be. But was the Brigadier in it?
I don't think so.
I feel like he's in the first one.
Okay.
And then he retires and then sort of does a bit of sort of I don't know, freelance work.
No, wasn't there a freebie with Doctor Who magazine or something where it was like him negotiating peace with the Silurians?
Yeah, that rings a bell. And then the series just sort of carried on from there. Did you buy the Juggernauts?
No, this was around the time when I drifted off from Big Finish. So I stopped. This is the point where I kind of stopped following it consecutively.
Because you had Dreamtime.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And I think, unfortunately, this was a point where a lot of people drifted away. A lot of them went back afterwards, but it was just like, Doctor Who's back. We don't need Big Finish anymore.
Yeah.
And
I've got a much more open relationship now. Doctor Who.
Indeed.
Too hot for TV.
Benny and Adrian find themselves trapped in an impossible play, moving back and forth through the seasons and time, with their roles sometimes as supporting cast and sometimes as starring. With the chapters of the story constantly changing and being written by the player, Benny must find a way out. Benny deduces that the player isn't a real person, and so she tricks him into a scene that has been deleted, and the masquerade ends. Benny wakes up in hospital and is told she was the victim of a complex computer virus.
Too hot for TV.
We often ask Doctor Who to do something different on the sort of Big Finish sets and things like that, and this is very different to a lot of Doctor Who at this point. It's basically a fantasy world, so how do you think it's handled?
Good. I don't see this as being that different from the Holy Terror.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
I thought it felt quite similar as a kind of a very isolated, fantastical, kingdom, in a castle somewhere removed.
Yeah.
Almost, I got strong Land of Fiction vibes from this.
I did wonder at certain points whether we were going to get a Celestial Toymaker or a Land of Fiction reference, but...
Well, the villain is a writer.
Yeah.
So I thought it was... For me, it's the mine robber in all but name.
I mean, I do wonder whether it's a case of they were like, we can do this without having to directly reference it and pay the Peter Ling estate.
Yeah.
Peter Ling's a name you don't say very often, isn't it?
He also founded Aer Lingus.
Of course, and invented Cunnilingus as well. and then went on to write Crossroads. That's how it works, right? It is a very fantastical setup, but it's quite a basic Doctor Who story of people are captured and try to escape, but it's just done in a very theatrical way, I would say. Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the theatrical elements of it. What are they? How are they handled?
It's essentially the characters are caught in a play, and it ends with someone being murdered, and the playwright himself is the villain. The routine of it is that the cast keep changing parts after each murder, because
the playwright keeps having to redraft the script.
Yes, yeah.
And so in order to escape, Benny makes the player illiterate, so he can't tell the story, and traps them in a deleted scene from a deleted draft, which I think is quite a clever out. So it's sort of playing with the concept of writing, and it's being a bit meta and stuff like that. And again, it's something that perhaps you wouldn't do in the main range.
Yeah, well, again, it's hard because it's very metatextual. You need something like the Land of Fiction. You need a science fiction explanation to it.
Yeah,
it's things like Doctor Who will never do what the League of Gentlemen did and have the characters realise they're fictional, because it just you always want a science fiction explanation to it.
There's a weird thing in this where the explanation, which is sort of science fiction, is there's a virus within the play.
Yes,
and so it was never meant to be read, or the virus needed to be read in order to expand, which is sort of there for your more science fiction audience. But actually, it would work just as well if it didn't do that. It's written by Stewart Sheargold. It's not a name I was particularly familiar with. What about you?
I know that he's written for 3 of the Bernice range.
We did cover The Mirror Effect, didn't we? Way back when.
Yes,
but
that was a good release. Did he write for the Sarah Jane range?
No, but he has written for the Gallifrey range, and he's written a companion chronicle called The Darkening Eye, whatever that means. And the main range, he wrote Red, which I remember really enjoying, and the Death Collector. This is sort of at that time, I think it's just as Gary Russell is handing over to Nick Briggs, and there's not really... It's not. I don't know whether the Death Collectors is bad. It probably isn't. But they're not stories that are talked about a lot. You know, like there's one called like Eye of the Tiger or something like the Emerald Tiger and things like that. And you're just like, actually, I can't remember anything about them. And it's just that Big Finish are trying to be different from televised Who, but they're also scared of doing any ongoing story arcs and things like that because they want to be accessible, and it's just a really weird time. I'd love to revisit some of those stories, but I mean, and so Stewart's Sheargold was certainly around a lot then, but I think he does a great job.
He's a good writer. It's very entertaining. It's funny when it needs to be. It's very effectively the threat, especially because there isn't much of an explanation. It does feel dangerous.
Yeah.
As though the characters could be murdered or written out, because it doesn't have the safety of an easily explainable plot.
Exactly. And Jack, I know you've not seen it, but it has a lot in common with the second series of Gangsters by Philip Martin, which may sound like a weird thing to say. Obviously, Adrian's back in this one. How does he fit into it all?
So, I mean, they try to wrong foot us by opens with the two of them waking up in bed together, and you're immediately going, what's happened to Jason? Are they having an affair? And he's written by the playwright as with different personas. So at some points he's this romantic figure towards Benny. At others he's cast as, quite funnily, is that at one point he's cast as like a royal. Like a member of the royal court. So Adrian, who's normally known for being quite gruff and quite kind of a bit of a working lad, and has to go really posh and fruity, and it's really fucking funny. It is.
But it's a great performance, and it's good because they've got this relationship of he's the father of the child, right? And they had sex when Benny was possessed.
Yeah.
Was he possessed? I can't remember.
Nope.
Yeah, that's it. And so there's this it's that weird love triangle between the three of them, and it's nice to hear just those two together, and it's still dealing with the fallout of that. I think it really works well. What do we think of our other supporting cast? So we've got the player, played by Robin Sebastian, the spinster, played by Joyce Gibbs, and the Queen of Spring, played by Sonny Ormondo.
No, I think it's a good cast. Like, it really feels like a fantastical kind of castle in some kind of fairy tale land. The spinster sounds like the woman from Murder, She Wrote.
Angela Lansbury. Yes, she does a bit, but she's not in A Big Finish.
No, but pretty good, like, budget Angela Lansbury.
Yeah,
like, she's really everybody gives it their all.
Yeah,
which again, it's the actors that get Bernice Summerfield. No, the actors won't have heard of it. Like, it's not even like Doctor Who, where they're like, oh, I can kind of see where this fits. So it's when actors do give it their all, it's welcome. They're really stepping up to the job.
I think it allows them to do something different. It's also why a lot of people take Doctor Who in general. You know, like this always attracts so many comedic actors. It's because it allows them to not just play the comedic roles necessarily, or sometimes they employ them because of their comedic skills and things like that.
Yeah.
But also, when you get someone like Alan Cumming who just gets to ham it up for an episode, so it must be quite nice to do a day as an actor on something like this when you've just done 4 episodes of Doctors, and you can, come and do something like this, which is a lot of fun.
There's some really good jokes about storytelling, like metatextual jokes. There's one point where I think Benny goes, "You can't have a good climax without some effective shouting," and then the finale is quite effective in that it's a duel between the playwright and Benny, but done as a kind of a rhyming rap battle. As in they're throwing out all these kind of rhyming couplets at each other, and it's like a literal verbal duel that's also a sword fight at the same time.
It's a lot of fun, and as you say, playing with the idea of writing. Do you think it makes a successful finale to the series, or is it just another story in a run of 4?
Well, it's still, like, again, it feels like we've had Jason for the opening. It feels like if this is going to end it, you want Jason back at the very least. And I think that's another issue that they they haven't addressed until maybe the next series, where we're still just getting bits of Benny's life rather than a through line of a story with Benny and the characters around her.
Yeah.
And it might be the budget at this point, because they're only doing 4 stories and they have a limited supporting cast.
Right.
So I don't know whether it's something they address when I think they go up to 6 stories a season after this.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's also that thing of they're still being tied into other ranges as well, like not other ranges, but little short stories and stuff like that, aren't they? So I notice on the TARDIS wiki, when you start to look at these seasons, it's 4 audios and then like a short story and a book, which is quite interesting. What I would say, and I don't think this is a criticism, is that these don't really make for cohesive seasons.
No.
They're all very standalone stories, which is fine. But it's just weird that they would call them a season in that respect. But I suppose that's quite like classic Doctor Who, right?
Yeah, but I think the thing is the strengths of the show of this range are leaning more towards an ongoing family story.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think it's addressed yet. I think the standard's been raised with this series, but they still haven't realised how to make it work as a series.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say on this story?
No.
Is it a clanger, a banger, or an average meander?
It's a banger.
It is an absolute banger.
Too hot for TV.
That's series 5 done. Are we happy with the development of the stories, the type of stories we're getting, the development of the characters?
Yeah, I think they're definitely, barring one, they're moving away from Doctor Who and Extra Slice.
Yes.
So I think it's pretty much upward from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we going to come back and do series 6?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that will probably be in the next series of Too Hot for TV, but I'm excited to see where this range goes. What can you tell us about Series 6 and what we've got to look forward to?
I think I remember there being some good stories in that, and I think things will develop. I remember it's got the Crystal of Cantus in it with the Cybermen.
Okay.
That's something that you've heard as well.
Yeah, I can't remember it, but I have heard it.
It's got the Monoids in.
Excellent.
It's got a script by Simon Guerrier, and I think it's also got the Eternals in from Enlightenment.
Ah, well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, that will be a fantastic listen, I hope. Where can people find you on the internet, Jack?
I'm on X under Jack Who Dat.
Excellent. And yes, I'm sure we'll be back soon with that.
Next time, we're on the verge of a new series, a new relaunch with a Doctor we've met before. I'll be joined by Mark Donaldson, and we'll be looking at 2 relaunches for the 8th Doctor. First, it's the book The 8 Doctors by Terence Dicks. Then, it's the Big Finish audio play Storm Warning by Alan Barnes.
But until then, I've been Dylan.
I've been Jack.
And this has been Doctor Who, Too Hot for TV.
Benny, Benny, Benny. Benny, 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 Benny. 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 Benny, 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 B-E-N-N-Y, B-E-N-N-Y.
Doctor Who. Too hot for TV.
During the recording of this episode, I got the date wrong for one of the releases. So we recorded a news at the time and releases at the time that weren't relevant to the release. So here is that section for the completists in you. What an idiot I am.
The next one is Professor Bernice Summerfield and the Bone of Contention, which was released on the 10th of December 2004, written by Simon Forward. So, our news at the time, Doctor Who was back in front of the cameras some 3,070 days since the TV movie wrapped. There was an announcement of the casting of Jackie and Mickey. It was announced that Euros Lyn was going to be directing the second block. 90 seconds of model shots from the Space Pirates was found. The comic strip was the 8th Doctor story, The Flood. The DVD was Ghostlight. The book was Half-Life, featuring the 8th Doctor and Fitz. From Big Finish, we had Arrangements from War, featuring the 6th Doctor and Evelyn. Another book out was The 11th Tiger, with the 1st Doctor, Ian and Barbara. Dalek Empire 3, The Healers was out, and Gallifrey, The Inquiry, and Gallifrey, A Blind Eye. So a lot of spin-off media at that point.
I remember reading Half-Life and enjoying that. Again, yeah, that was towards the end of the... We knew the 8th Doctor books were coming to an end.
Yeah.
And again, that was very... Half-Life was a bit like what Return of the Living Dad was to the Virginia Adventures.
Really?
It's the Doctor's amnesiac. We know he's going to get fixed at some point. And there's a character that they meet that might be Compassion, but it's never acknowledged. Yeah, it was good. A lot of good stuff out.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. I remember a lot of this very fondly. And it's a
twilight period because you've got the flood wrapping up. It's the 8th Doctor getting slowly pushed into
past Doctors.
Yes, yeah.
He was no longer the current Doctor. It's an interesting time in looking back on it now because behind the scenes, all those ranges, be it comics, be it books, be it Big Finish, are going, oh, we really need to readdress exactly what we're doing. I know that Justin Richards said there was always a chance that the new series would only last for one series and then the current Doctor books would just be the 9th Doctor adventures with it taking over and they just carry on that monthly cycle. But Doctor Who turned out to be quite the success.
Too hot for TV.